Well, hi YouTube. Earl Pipes here. Sorry you're maybe a little bit lower than we've been the past few weeks. I was trying to go live on my laptop here, and for some reason it didn't want to, wouldn't allow me to go live. So I had to stop that, and I've got my phone out, and it's on my laptop now, but it's considerably lower, and so I apologize that you're getting a bad view this evening. But anyway, it's a lovely Louisiana night. I'd say the only downside of it is I've got this huge spider. I mean, like, he's that big around. Has built a web right over here. I'm not bothering him. He's eating some bugs and don't plan on bothering him. But it's a beautiful, it's 65 degrees. This time last week it was probably 85 degrees outside. Went to the LSU football game, LSU Louisiana Tech football game this past weekend, and it was 93 degrees during that. So it's cooled off considerably here. And tonight I thought I would smoke a little pure Semois. And Semois, for those who don't know, which I assume there are a good many of us who don't know, I've been smoking a pipe pretty heavy for a year and a half now, and I had not heard of it until a couple weeks back, at the most maybe a month. And it actually goes back, it kind of got to be well known a few years back because of a New York Times article that was written about it back in 2013. But it's a tobacco that's grown in the Ardennes Valley, there alongside the banks of the river. From what I understand, it's a type of burley, but it's grown in some very unique conditions, and so it has a very unique flavor profile. On top of that, the way that they process it, and there's only, I believe, only one guy that processes it, Tabac Manil. I could be wrong on that, but at least according to what I've figured out, it's one guy, one producer of this, and they really don't do anything special to it as far as fermentation, but they let it dry in an incredible amount. So when it comes to you, it is bone dry. Now, you're not supposed to rehydrate this tobacco. You don't need to make it, you're not supposed to rehydrate. That's part of it. I don't know if the lack of hydration really concentrates the flavors that makes it so good, but either way, you're not supposed to. But it's got a very strong flavor. It's a lot of people, when I first started reading it, said it tasted like smoking a cigar, and I don't agree with that, but I will say it is the closest you get to smoking a cigar with while smoking a pipe, even in relation to when you're smoking cigar leaf in a pipe. There's something about that slightly sweet flavor that you get from a cigar. I don't really know how to describe it, but somewhere of those, in the middle of those earthy, leathery tones, and there's this particular sweetness that's only in cigar tobacco. I find it nowhere else in any pipe tobacco. This doesn't quite have that, but it's close to it. I started my bowl a few minutes ago, so now I'm getting back to it. And yeah, for me, I get wood notes at first. But very deep flavors, not high and not bright flavors from a Virginia tobacco at all. There's something slightly sweet about it. maybe a little bit of a floral note, I would guess is there. But what you do when you pack this tobacco, because it's so dry, you can't let air get to it. So you've got to pack it extremely tight. And then you want to sip it. All right, so not much, because it doesn't take much to keep this lit. And it burns down to a nice, just gray ash, white ash, gray ash, whatever color ash you'd like. That's what color it is. But it burns well, it smokes well. It's a lovely tobacco. It's something you just gotta try. We'll say this, that I've noticed on the first go around, and even a few subsequent bowls that I've had. The first part, it's a good smoke. But it's moving into the second half of the bowl. Okay, it's where, for me, everything begins to become much more concentrated and just excellent to die for. I think it's quite a treasure. They sell it in 3.5 ounces, so 100 grams, I believe, is what they sell it in. I've got the medium cut. I believe they have a thick cut, and then they've got a medium cut, and then they also have another version that mixes some other tobaccos in there, and I think that's Le Petit Robin. My French is not very good, even though I'm from Louisiana. My French is quite horrible, so if I've said Semois wrong or Le Petit Robin wrong, bad French accent, excuse me, I'm sorry. But it is it's a straight Belgium tobacco, and it's just great, and it's wonderful. But Le Petit Robin does have other tobaccos, probably some Virginias in there as well. But it's a good tobacco. It's something that I would encourage you to try no matter what you think of those flavors I just described, because this is unique within pipe tobacco. It's I haven't found anything that's close to it, because even though it's a burley, doesn't taste like a burley. You get some of those wood notes, but it's not that nutty, chocolatey. It's just something different, and you got to experience it to test it out. So that's my review of Vincent Manil's, Monsieur Manil. I believe that's how you say his last name. If I didn't, and you're watching this, Mr. Manil, I apologize. But of the pure Semois, it's very good. You should buy some. I believe smoking pipes, they sell it for $14, or maybe it's $19. I'm not sure, but you're getting 3.5 ounces, so it's double the normal size that you would be getting when you order tobacco. But it's good. Try it out. Sorry I don't have more things to cover tonight, or things to say about the tobacco, other than it's good. It's a little bit like a cigar. You got some woody notes, you got some sweet notes. My palate's not that refined. Don't have any theological notes for you this week, although next week let's start talking about the Old Testament. Let's talk about covenants in the Old Testament. We'll talk about kingdoms in the Old Testament. We'll talk about kingdom theology, the kingdom of God. So if you're here for the theology, we'll get kicking on that next week. All right, everybody, Earl of Pipes, have a good night.